everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online, and our newest co-sponsor Cardimajigs.com, presenting Cubamajigs. These durable, scratch-resistant plastic cases are perfect for cubes, sideboards, and more, with new designs every Monday. I am Evan Irwin. I'm going to get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
How's it going?
Ruben Bressler.
Hey, the great ones play hurt. Thanks for, I know we had to delay and you're not quite ready yet. So we're going to do a little bit of something different here. We're going to pass over to me for this section. I'm going to be heading up a lot more of the Evan-centric stuff so that he can take a little nappy poo and doesn't overexert himself by the middle of the episode. So you can also support us with Trumpet Blasts. You can get one of those if you support us at our highest level on Patreon. We do not have one this week, but feel free to head on over to patreon.com/magicmics and see, get your name up in lights on the Jumbotron here, and we'll announce what you have written down. A couple of quick notes before we get started. We are on Spotify.
Yes,
Keep in mind that we have the last, 50, 100 episodes, something along those lines overall. It's 100 episodes of our top 10s and our live shows on Spotify. Feel free to search for us there. Just another great way to get a hold of Magic Mike's content. And the last note before we get started in earnest is we are going to be doing our complete set review Kickstarter for War of the Spark starting next week. So next week's show, next Wednesday, which is March 13th, we are going to be launching the Magic Mike's complete War of the Spark set review Kickstarter. We've done one for Dominaria, and we did one for Guilds of Ravnica. And we are hoping that we are going to go 3 for 3. Please do support us on that. We have some excellent stuff coming out, and we recorded our little announcement video for that. So please do stay tuned.
Yeah, the token art for that is really sweet. We've also been brainstorming some unique swag that we can give away with this one. So I think we're really going to do a good job of topping ourselves with this one.
Absolutely, yeah. We get started every week with our first pick and the giveaway. This week's giveaway is a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com, which you can earn if you enter !mark Raffle in the chat. And then you're lucky and become the one lucky winner of that cool $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. So we're going to get started here with the first pick. And the first pick this week is the first look at the new tournament software from the Wizards Play Network. Bill Stark, who recently got promoted or job swapped or something along those lines to product manager over at Wizards of the Coast, wrote an article on the new Wizards Play Network software. And the bottom line here is that if what they're describing works, it's going to be great. That's the headline, is that this is a awesome change. This is an awesome initiative, and if they follow through, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to make the player experience a lot better and a lot easier for those of you attending live tournaments. Among the things that will be introduced include text updates, texting pairings, which is definitely going to help a lot. I know that I have a lot of trouble. I don't really want to go to the pairings boards between rounds. If you've ever been in that cattle call, that ridiculous stampede with pairings are now up, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Getting the round updates sent to your phone is going to be absolutely fantastic. Another thing that they have included is a phone app for ease of keeping track of life totals, of players, match results, and things along those lines, which are going to be really helpful as well. And it's going to help local game stores and other tournament organizers with tournament organization, being able to keep track of leaderboards and things along those lines. So all in all, just a really great initiative taken on here by Wizards of the Coast Play Network.
Yeah, I really like this. I think it has a lot of potential. I personally hate playing that game of where do I put my match slip? You see the colored printouts of like if you're playing in this main event, you put it in this container. If you're playing the side event, you put it here. I'm actually really excited about this. And what I really like the most about this article or this announcement is that the Mr. Stark starts it off by acknowledging that the current system does not work. It would be very easy for him to just kind of dive into this and gloss over that fact, but he starts off by saying, if you've run a Wizards event, you probably have heard of Whir. And so he's acknowledging that Whir has had its issues for a long time. And he comes out of the gate very strong and says, my team is dedicated to building the tools that support your business and your events. And a big part of our focus is seeking to improve how Whir helps you succeed. And I like that. That made me a lot more interested in what he had to say.
Now, this isn't necessarily the portal app that they've been talking about and they put on the side of the Guilds of Ravnica box. But the idea that nothing in tournaments has changed since 1995 essentially is correct. We're still using dead trees. Like, there's been various sort of, fixes over the years because tournament organizers have tried to fix this. They've tried to use text messaging. From what I can tell, Ruben, this looks to me like an app notification, which isn't technically a text message.
Okay, sure.
Because at one point, and again, we were talking about, I think it was Legion who had used text messaging at one point.
Right.
And because usually these event halls are giant lead boxes, you don't always get your text messages, and people were getting them late or the next day, and like it was just crazy. So
yeah, hopefully, because every convention center and ballroom is a Faraday cage, and it's very difficult to get just general internet. You get your Wi-Fi signal, no Wi-Fi signal in those tournament halls. Also, hopefully they figure out a way that is more along the lines of WhatsApp, which will send direct phone to phone. So maybe that's what they have in mind. I doubt it, honestly. But you're right. I mean, we're still living in we're a vinyl game, right? We're old Magic cards made with cardboard.
The idea that we can both enter our results into an app and like we don't have to sign a slip, we don't have to go drop it into the basket, they don't have to fish it out of the basket to put it the inner end themselves. As long as we agree on the result, there's no problem with that. And that's genius. But this is when I go like, look, I have seen dog and pony shows like this before, and I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, but I've seen amazing things that Wizards has promised and they just can't fulfill on. Supposedly you're able to see some of this at Gamma. I'm not going to be at Gamma this year, but I know some people who are, so I'm going to ask them to stop by. But again, if it works how we think it does in our head, that's amazing. Honestly, it's amazing. It's
also going to be really helpful if we've all had the situation where we've ended a round, or especially you judges out there, you've got to the end of the round, but you're missing a signature. Hey, Aaron Campbell, could you please come to the front of the stage and sign this match slip? Well, Aaron Campbell went to go get lunch, so you're SOL, I guess. Now you can send the update to their phone instead.
Or the buzzers. The buzzers only work, for a certain number of feet, and so if you have to use the bathroom and you're traveling outside of your range, the buzzer might not necessarily work, and all sorts of limitations.
Absolutely. My bottom line here is that I love, first of all, that this is an announcement announcing something. Remember those? Remember when Wizards of the Coast would announce announcements as opposed to that they're going to be announcing?
Hey, I'm okay with that for what it's worth because I want to know when the Challenger deck lists are coming out.
That's true.
I would really like to know that. I do. I want to know, man. Those get me. Like, I actually want to play F&M when those came out. Like, and I want to play it again when they give me another deck that I can just spend $30 and just have a deck ready to go. Like, that's really exciting to me. But the idea that and some people were like, well, Evan, excuse me, if their phone's not charged, then you're not going to be able to use it. It was like, well, good, because you should be taught to show up at the event with your phone charged. Like that's
or at least bring. I never leave home without my battery pack. I have one of those little rectangles that you can. A little juice box so you can plug in your if you don't have an actual socket you can do like attached to a wall, you can bring your own. I bring that to every tournament.
Absolutely. I mean, I was looking around for mine, but I couldn't find it.
You can get a decent one for like $10. They're not that wild.
Earlier this week, I'd said, hey, Wizards, could you tell us when the result, when these lists are coming out? And then Blake was like, so you want us to announce when we're doing the announcement? And I was like, I know I give you crap, but they
Gotcha.
really are useful. It is actually useful to know, not just because I'm a Magic fan, but just for business reasons, like when we're going to put them up for pre-order, for example.
Right.
Like that's a thing that businesses want to know.
You still had that response coming, though.
I asked for it. It's fine.
Good. My bottom line for this, well, first of all, shout out to Bill Stark, who was my first ever Magic the Gathering article editor.
Nice.
Back in the day for Londis.com.
Oh, wow.
Long defunct website.
Wow.
Where myself and Nick Miller got our starts. Owen Turtenwald worked there as a writer for a brief time, and Bill Stark was the editor.
Wow.
That was an interesting time and introduced me to the world of Magic content creation. So big ups to Londis, big ups to to Bill Stark, and of course this looked great. I mean, Wizards Event Reporter has had this a long time coming, and I'm looking forward to the makeover.
All right.
Moving on here, right? Is that how we do it?
That's how we do it.
Moving on here, flawless segue to Gather the Townsfolk, where this was a little bit of an awkward announcement thing that happened. So it seems that they announced at one point that the War for the Spark pre-release was going to have guild kits or
pre-release
event kits, pre-release kits that each had a minimum of 2 planeswalkers, correct?
Well, they were going to have one foil stamped premium card. So basically you get your one rare, pre-release foil, but you also get a rare stamped planeswalker. Now, if you go to my tweet, I've linked it here. You'll see where I actually took a screenshot of the page, which has now been updated to have been scrubbed away, which by
right. And that's the awkward part, is that they announced it and then they took it away. As a result, it signal boosted because when you remove this is the Streisand effect. When you try to hide it, it only gets louder. Right.
So it's like, oh, weird. You guys totally deleted that after we said that was a thing. Huh? Strange. And that's fine. If, Wizards want to unveil it on their time, no problem. This isn't the most giant reveal, in my opinion. So some crazy spoiler that ruins everything. It's just like, oh, wow, that's really sweet. That's another reason I want to show up to the pre-release. So that's really cool. So.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of a gutter ball, I guess, in terms of announcement, but it seems pretty exciting. And the pre-releases are always my favorite part of any. Those are the only times I really get out to the local game stores anymore. Support your friendly local game store.
That's right.
Moving on, our good friend Frank Karsten, hashtag somebody call Frank Karsten, wrote an article recently called "The Top 20 Cards I Want to See in Modern" by Frank Karsten. And it included some pretty interesting choices of cards that he is looking forward to being in Modern Horizons, which is the set that's coming out very soon that will introduce new cards to Modern, Legacy, and Older, as opposed to things like Commander Commander and the specialty Masters sets that introduce them only to Legacy and Older.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the really interesting cards that I'm looking most forward to that he had on the list, number one being Wirewood Symbiote. I think that would be a fabulous addition to the format. But he had some interesting choices and some cards that I don't think are going to be included. He had Vindicate on the list, for example. Upheaval is on the list. Doomsday, I don't think is going to make its way into
Doomsday in Walmart. I love it.
That's right. But a man can dream, and I like a lot of the choices that he made. Basking Rootwalla, I absolutely would not be surprised to see in the format. So I thought that this was a really cool article.
I like Sneak Attack. He brings up a point that, with Modern being as fast as it is, you don't have Lotus Petal, you don't have Rituals, you don't have Ancient Tomb. If you want to pay 4 for a Sneak Attack and then you have to, come up with a 5th mana to get it going, sure, that's fine. Counterspell in particular is a card that people have really asked for a long time. And that's one of the main complaints that people have about Modern is they feel like they don't have enough answers where, you don't have Wasteland, you don't have Counterspell. So a lot of these big over-the-top kind of effects happen and you really feel like you're kind of forced to watch. And so I think Counterspell would be really, really neat. I love the idea, obviously, of Necromancy. Right now we have Unburial Rights, and I think Goryo's Vengeance, you know, where it's like there's no nothing like that. And so giving us an Entomb, giving us something a little cheaper like an Anime Dead, I think could be a lot of fun. You know, giving people a different kind of graveyard deck, I think is really sweet. Tanglewire, I think, is another nice. Cunning Wish, I mean, that would be really cool. The cycling lands, I played Living End for the longest time. I would have loved to have had these lands. And so you've seen a lot of these articles. Emma Handy did a take on this that was posted today on Star City. You know, everybody kind of has their opinions, but I'm really excited as long as they give us the actual cards. My only complaint was that
you don't like Cabal Therapist.
No, I don't like bagged cereal. So as long as you give me actual Fruit Loops, I'm here. It's fine.
You don't like Force of Willer or Will of the Force.
I like Sylvan Librarian. I thought that was fun.
Sylvan Librarian,
nice. I like that. Yeah.
I'm really excited. So out of curiosity, what card that isn't currently legal in Modern would you most like to see in Modern Horizons?
I think the default for me is Counterspell, which is what he kind of defaulted to. But I think the real answer that I put on Twitter was like, I just think Sylvan Library is such a cool card. It does something really unique. It's crazy and green, which the color doesn't get those type of effects. Yes, it's going to drive judges crazy, and I'm sorry, but like I just found it really exciting. I thought that was cool. Vindicate, I was just like, really? Vindicate's his number 2?
No,
but
can't. I don't think you can put Vindicate in the format.
Why?
Because it's a 3-mana Stone Rain in white-black.
It is a 3-mana Stone Rain. I mean, the Stone Rain aspect of it is important, but like, I don't know. Would it really be that impactful?
I don't think so. I think it just might make the format a little bit miserable. Is my problem with a lot of the cards. I feel like that the floor is lower than the ceiling is high for some of the cards that are recommended here. Things like Foil, things like Vindicate. I think that could be more miserable than they are worth it. Whereas Sylvan Library, I think, is fine. I think the ceiling for Sylvan Library is fine because when Jund is the best deck in Modern, Jund is a great format, or Modern is a great format. And I think that card slots really easily to those green, black, mid-rangey kind of decks, Abzan or Jund.
I feel very strongly they're going to put Astral Slide in the set. I don't know that.
One. I love that.
It's random.
I just feel like it's one of those cards. It was made to be sort of an archetype, and it's just built. It's the card you need for the archetype.
I would also like to see an Enchantress of some sort. You know, we don't have our Argothian Enchantress, and you know, I think that'd be huge. I think all we have is the Mesa one, which is
not great. So, you have Verdurin from 8th edition, you have Mesa Enchantress, and you have like Core Spirit Dancer. But something like Enchantress's Presence. You also have Eidolon of Blossoms. But something like Enchantress's Presence would certainly make the deck a lot better. The card that I think is the easiest shoe-in is Oubliette. I think that's the easiest one.
Come on, Pauper.
It's a Pauper card. It gets it in packs. It lowers the price of a card for something that's supposed to be not super expensive. I think that's an easy one to slot in. The card that I want to be in there the most is a tougher question, mostly because some of the cards that I want to be in Modern are banned. I think that Stoneforge Mystic, for example, is a great one.
Right.
I don't think that they'll put in Modern Horizons unless it is at the same time announced as unbanned. So, it's a tough needle to thread there. I want there to be the decks that are good and interesting in Legacy and Vintage to be playable in Modern, but worse. And tops of the list for that is Reanimator. And so something like Exhume or Anime Dead or Necromancy is high on my list as well.
Yeah, you don't want to invalidate those formats. I don't think that's the goal here. I certainly hope it isn't the goal, but you don't want to give them too many things to where people aren't playing those formats anymore. And so obviously I would love Reanimate. I think Exhume would be fine, especially sort of having the symmetrical effect. I think that is less broken. And so I'm excited. Like I said, as long as we get the original versions of things, I'm interested.
Well, there you go. So, ultimately, we're going to see so many takes. Let me tell you, the takes have just begun. Karsten was the first. We now have him handy. There's going to be some on CoolStuffInc.com. Of course, when Jim Davis wants to write about him, you're going to see plenty of words, digital ink being spilled over what may or may not be in this set. And that's a great thing. That's one of the best parts of the set.
What else I would like to see, taking a cue off Emma, the Threshold lands. Give me Cabal Pit, Barbarian Ring. She said Cephalid Coliseum is too good. She might have a point. But Threshold lands, yes.
Nantuko Monastery, anybody? No?
No way.
I did see some chatter that there was going to be snow stuff in this set. I knew that Gavin mentioned that snow was considered as a motif for one of the Masters expansions. I would not be surprised to see Snowlands return.
Someone just asked a good question in chat. Another topic we didn't put on the show notes is that the next BNR announcement is what, Monday?
It's 4 days away, 5 days away. So yeah, play with those faithless lootings this weekend, y'all. You ain't getting them no more.
Nope.
You ain't getting them no more.
It's fine.
Get out of here.
Fine.
Cards busted. Like, and it's funny because I have been able to see literally the entire evolution of, when Faithless Looting was first printed, man, that's a game changer. Like, it was like, holy cow, really? Red can do what for 1 mana and then flash it back? That was huge. And then we've basically seen it's just too good. But they've just busted it with all these weird cards and mechanics over time. Hollow One and your Phoenixes. It's just busted. They blew it.
It's fine.
Well, Aaron, you're a little biased, so.
She's like, it's fine. It's fine.
Seriously.
It's not a trash deck. It's not a trash
deck. Look at the things that other people are doing. You have Ancient Stirrings. You have the Opal problem. I mean, I think I actually don't think anything needs to go. I think
we will find out on Monday, and I'm sure that you will have lots to say after it gets banned on Wednesday, right, Aaron? We'll have to look forward to that episode next week. But moving on for now, we have new tokens, of course. We'll be displaying our tokens from our Kickstarter.
Oh my God. Evans in particular is a long time coming. That's all I'm going to say.
Chef's Kiss is very good. But the most recent collection of tokens was shared today by Melissa DeTora, who is, of course, one of the members of the Magic the Gathering play design team. Tokens of Adam Prozac, Melissa DeTora, Andrew Brown, Paul Cheon, Michael Hinderaker, Ian Duke, Donald Smith, Michael Majors, Brian Hawley, and Jadine Klomperens came out, and they have play design team tokens, which are super cool. Done by Ovidio Cartagena and designed by Daniel Holt, who's also a member of Wizards of the Coast and one of their new and Olivio is one of the new artists in-house.
Daniel Holt is my former employee, by the way.
Right, there you go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
These are so accurate too. I love that you have, Melissa sort of smirk, her kind of dry humor. You have Jadine in the hat. You have Paul, humping on something.
Looks like an ice cream cone, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you have, Andrew Brown and that baby face of his Prozac and that smile. I mean, these are so accurate. I also love that none of these are white. You got some green, you got a black token, a red token, some blue tokens, no soldiers, no angels.
What's up with no white? What's going on with that?
There's no creature types at all. They're all just the names.
I love it.
It's really nice though.
I really like these designs. They're a lot more portrait style rather than stylized than a lot of the recent take on tokens that we've seen in a while. I love these tokens. I think they're pretty spectacular.
Well, thank you. Dio in the chat saying they loved our villains list. Thank you. We had a lot of fun making those.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, the heroes and the villains were a ton of fun to make in the top 10s. You should check those out at coolstuffinc.com, where we post those. Moving on now, one of the big stories from the weekend at Magic the Gathering Fest Los Angeles, among other things, was a record being broken by one Miss Dana Fisher, who took her Trusty Elves deck and made it all the way to day 2 for the first time ever, becoming the youngest player to day 2 a Grand Prix event by a wide margin, something like 2.5 or 3 years. Really impressively done. You could tell that she had her head in the game. And if you were watching coverage, you saw that she actually had a moment where regular people on camera, the last round of the day, facing that kind of pressure, could have crumbled. Accidentally drawing 8 cards, being forced to take a mulligan, was able to come back from that mental setback and still win the match. Really impressive. We got to hang out with Dana for about half a second on the pre-show. I think it was last week, because I was playing Commander with Adam, her dad, and some other folks. And it's great to see all of her hard work and perseverance pay off.
Yeah, speaking of hard work, I just want to give a shout out to CFB. They killed it with the coverage this past weekend. Universal praise. You know, if you click on the hashtag, if you look at what people were saying on Reddit and in the Twitch chat, they did an amazing job with coverage for that event. Pleasant Kenobi ended up being the scene stealer that weekend. There were so many incredible moments.
James Corden. I had no idea that he just was the natural charismatic host.
My favorite moment involving him was he was talking to a pauper burn player, and he has this guy and he says to him, you know, so what are you playing and how are you feeling? And the guy's a little nervous and he goes, I feel good and I'm playing burn. And Kenobi goes, you feel good and you're playing burn? That's an oxymoron. And the guy doesn't even get it. He's like, I lost it. I died.
That's spectacular.
I mean, in Dana's case, note that she accidentally drew 8 cards to begin game 3 and had to watch her opponent take the best card as part of the judge ruling. So to keep their poise after that and to continue to play and win the game itself was huge. Congrats, Dana. She's been working so long for it. Yeah.
Chat also, too, I want to give a shout out to the moderators. LSV in particular was incredibly hands-on with the CFB moderators. I belong to the Wizards moderator Discord channel. They started a separate channel for the CFB folks, which is fine. But LSV was popping in all weekend. How's everything going? Do you need it? Do you need anything? We want to keep chat. They really committed themselves to keeping chat a positive and good place. And so CFB was just firing on all cylinders this weekend, and people noticed.
My favorite moment of the weekend was, of course, being interviewed by Pleasant Kenobi. And I still have to find where that ended up. I know it broadcast over the weekend.
Was it on the cutting room floor?
No, it was broadcast. It just hasn't been uploaded to the YouTube yet.
They were like, who?
Because I got a couple texts about it saying, hey, I just saw you on coverage, which I thought was pretty cool. So CFB doing coverage, and it seems like it's playing pretty well with early reporting in.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to Dana Fisher, by the way, 11-year-old Abram Goldstein went 3.
12 and 3. 12 and 3.
So now, wait a minute. Isn't she 12? Isn't Dana 12?
No, Dana's like 8.
Okay, so Dana's 8. Okay, because the Reddit post was written in such a way as to imply that there might have been competition. Like Abram might have been younger. I must have read it wrong.
Well, Abram is the second youngest person to day 2 ever now, or would have been the second youngest before Dana did.
Okay.
And then went 12 and 3. And then, of course, the kid who got second place at the last Grand Prix LA was one of the highest places.
The Merfolk kid, yeah.
Finals, yeah. But Abram, 11 years old, going 12 and 3 in a GP, very impressive.
They're getting younger and younger, and we're getting older, and I'm so amazed. And I can't help but wonder, what my Magic life would be like if I had started that young, and especially started playing tournaments that young. Like, you really do. There is just such a steep learning curve, and you really just can't get those years back. And it's like, wow.
Yeah. Pretty intense. Reed Duke started when he was 5 years old. I don't know how quickly he made it to the tournament floor, but that's pretty good pedigree there for starting early.
I literally couldn't have begun any earlier than 12.
Yeah, well, because you're old.
That's right.
Richard Garfield you had to wait for Richard Garfield to catch up to you wanting to play his game.
MTG Young Mage is in the chat. He says he was 7 when he started. Like, wow, they're doing so much with their time.
That's right. Well, moving on here, bad news, Minnesota fans of Magic the Gathering. Unfortunately, Minnesota Regionals is going to be canceled due to snow this weekend. Tell me about the weather up in your neck of the woods. I know that you're about 5 hours away from Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Maybe further, actually, now that I think about it. But
it's about 5 or 6 hours. You're not wrong. There is a huge snowstorm that's supposed to hit this weekend. It's supposed to cover most of Minnesota. It's going to get the western portion of Wisconsin, nowhere close to me, thank God. But it is predicted to be bad enough to where they did cancel regionals. I will be attending the regionals in Illinois, so come say hello if you're there. And Past Times opened up about 30 to 40 extra seats for that particular regionals in case those folks want to drive down and make it the regionals. So it's just, one of the dangers of living in, Minnesota or Wisconsin, that every once in a while you just get hit with. We had our polar vortex last month, which was so bad that even bars were closed, even the post office, charities.
It was dangerous to be outside.
The entire city shut down for one day. It was wild.
Don't worry, you're going to probably have it again next year. Climate change is real. The whole point, well, people were saying like this storm is only going to dump like 8 to 12 inches worth of snow. It's like, well, you also realize there's already a foot to like 2 foot of snow there. What has like melted is just going to freeze again, and this is going to go on top of it. It's a giant problem. And
speaking of cold, Los Angeles just had a record-setting February. Get ready for this statistic.
Oh, boy.
It was the first February in recorded history that the temperature did not go above 70.
Get out of here.
That's right. That's that El Nino coming through.
I would kill for 40 right now. Like that would be spring break for me.
I was on the phone with my parents the other day, and they said that they were experiencing a bit of a heat wave because it was 20. It was 0 for several days in a row, and it was going to be 0 the next day afterwards. They were making sure that the cats weren't wandering too far from the house because they would freeze to death. But yeah, I mean, it's a wild world out there. Y'all stay safe, particularly you Magic fans who drive in the worst possible conditions, myself included, to get to Magic tournaments. Evan, of course, being we have the ice apocalypse story from New York Worlds that one year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was fun.
Where I skidded off the highway at 70 miles an hour and continued driving.
We have some international fans in the chat who are so confused. They're like, Celsius? What?
No. Americans use Fahrenheit because we have no frame of reference on anything.
Right.
Until we get to negative 40 degrees, and then we're right there. Then we're
on
right
the same,
there.
Then we're on the same page.
Exact same temperature.
Moving on here, we've got another post from friend of the program and art aficionado Vorthos Mike Linneman, who tweeted out that you can get your very own artist print of Pteramander from artist Simon Dominic, and 50% of the print proceeds for the next 3 months or until May-ish will go to a UK trans nonprofit in the honor of Autumn Burchett winning the first Mythic Championship.
Yeah.
So go out and get your Pteramanders. I think that those took over Pteramander Says Trans Rights, for example, was a big hashtag in the week afterwards. And this is a really cool initiative.
Yeah, Mike reached out to me last night to get my opinion on it, and it was just too short notice for me, where he was like, God bless him, but he was like, do you know what charity is? Like, do you know how I should roll it out? And I was like, what? Like, I had no time. And so I really did want to contribute more to this, but he does have a handle on this sort of thing. I trust the artist to donate the money. If you all have any recommendations for a good charity, I believe they're leaning towards Mermaids, which was the same organization that Bomber Guy donated to. But if you all do have a better suggestion, feel free to let Mike know. Him and the artist are very committed to giving the money to a good cause.
Pteramander Says Trans Rights is one of those things where, like, if you ever try to explain that to your parents, they're just like, and like, even now,
to myself,
right? Even as like a dad, I'm just like, I think this is cool, right? I think this is cool. I'm too old to be 100% sure what's cool anymore. I think it seems cool. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's move on to Desperate Ravings. You got the overlay switch there, because we have because if any story required the word desperate and required the word ravings, it's this one. So a gentleman from Twitter who shall remain nameless and has some history with some success in Magic the Gathering stuck his foot in his bronze level mouth and found himself centered in controversy and one of the worst ratios. Are you familiar with the ratio, by the way?
Feel free to explain it.
Okay, the ratio, the capital T, capital R, is when you tweet something and the number of responses vastly outweighs the number of retweets or favorites. And this particular tweet, which says, quote, this was in response, by the way, to a tweet from Simon Gertzen, who was saying a short list of some of the favorites to make.
I feel like you buried the lead here.
What was the lead?
So I'll handle this. So basically, what happened here, what we're referring to is last week, they finalized who was going to be invited to the Mythic Championship. Is that correct?
Yes.
The 8 slots from Arena. And one of the people who ended up qualifying was a young lady. I believe her name's Alina or Aaliyah. Aaliyah happens to be dating a pro. And there was a person on Twitter who said, wow, very cool that Magic's world champion's girlfriend Placed top 8 in one of the most heavily competed races ever, it must be cool to have your boyfriend to ask about tough game situations after the match. And so this led to a lot of hot takes from various pros, a lot of subtweets about this situation. And Brian Brown Dewin in particular had a really hot take on this, a joke about this.
Really good response. Yeah.
And he says, well, this really sucks. I just got off the phone with Wizards and was told that they will be sending a representative to take back my World Championship trophy, as I got too much help from my teammates to have earned it myself. Thanks for the support. And it was just ludicrous. You know, there's this weird sort of, it's common knowledge that if you want to get better at Magic, you surround yourself with better people. We tell people that all the time. So you have somebody who finally took you up on that advice, and it's like, well, no, not like that. And it's like, yeah. What do you want us to do? It's like you complain that there are no good girls, there are no skilled female players, and then when we get good, you have to poke holes in that success somehow. Like, what do you want us to do?
There was, and it was just the doubling down on the doubling down on the doubling down. He was like, I'm in a world of logic and reasoning, and I'm just like, no, you're not. You're just being a prick, and it's really awkward how we're trying to explain to you, nice and calmly. Jerry Thompson gets in the middle of it and is like, look, this is why you're wrong and why all these takes are coming in.
They can't help themselves.
They just can't. What's wrong with you guys?
So congrats to her and congrats to the other 7. Some really awesome folks made it in there.
This is Aaliyah Deshane, by the way, who finished 8th in the final rankings and made it like all the way to that level. And let's face it, we all have help, and even if you don't, like, getting to the top 8 of a system like this is a hell of an achievement. So good on you.
Look, she had help, guys, so it doesn't mean anything.
Right, like PPD said. So we had an interesting resolution to this Martin Juza foot in mouth situation, which I did not follow very closely. I have to be honest with you.
This is we talked a little bit about last week, I think, where it was the sort of the let them eat cake. You should be happy that there's any slots at all.
This was the bourgeoisie proletariat, like, you should be thankful for what you have situation.
Yeah.
But turns out, hopefully, resolved in a relatively acceptable way, as Todd Anderson was able to sort of clear the air a little bit about exactly what was said and done. Language is difficult, and second languages being very difficult was a problem. And it seems that Martin Juza thought that certain phraseology meant something else. And in our world of dogpiling, it is very easy to take someone at first glance, at first brush, and not really reestablish what the situation actually is. So good for Todd for clearing the air there. He has a pedestal from which he used for good, which is great on him. And yeah.
This was just one of those things where Martin Juza had said something like, "I'm sorry you got offended," and thought that was the same thing as "sorry I offended you." Right. And this is just one of those, like, it's not his first language, and so then, you know, oh my gosh, it's time to get out the pitchforks and everybody hate on Martin because whatever. And it's nice to see that, you know, Todd contacted him privately. We can actually be adults about this from time to time. Not all Twitter sort of beefs end in this horrific train crash. You can't just, you know, be like, wow, I got you wrong and you got me wrong and we're cool now and that's awesome. So
let's have a quick appreciation for apologies going well.
Absolutely.
I think that we have seen a lot of hashtag PR nightmares over.
We have 1 or 2 more before the show's over.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. But when you have a nightmare, you are able to wrest control of the situation. You're able to have a situation like how Todd helped Martin here, and Martin was able to redeem himself. There was another good example from popular culture of Terry Crews apologizing in the correct way and saying all of the right things and hitting all of the correct points. It's not as common as I'd like it to be, but when you apologize and you do a good job of it, you are to be lauded. So
very nice.
Moving on here, we have another phraseology question. We talk a lot about spoilers here in the Magic the Gathering mics program, the Magic the Gathering microphones. And we talk about it a lot in general on Twitter of who's getting spoilers. What's your spoiler card going to be? Have you seen the latest spoilers? And Benny, Blair Witch Green, who's a longtime Commander writer, and was working for Star City Games as a writer long before I got hired there as a writer myself back when I was in college. Published author in Magic as well, says, "Hey people, can we stop referring to previews as spoilers? Spoilers are leaks and unofficial. Previews are the cards that Wizards shares through various channels. Preview, previews, previews." I think that is a noble effort. I think that you're going to have a difficult time convincing MythicSpoilers.com to change their name, but I think that that's a fine hill to die on.
It feels a little pedantic.
Right. It's not one I would choose to die on, right?
Like, this is the type of thing where corporate wants you to say previews.
Yeah, exactly.
But the fans want spoilers.
Well, it's that's that BuzzFeed, buzzword kind of thing.
It also does better on YouTube, for example. The videos that say spoilers do better than the videos say previews, which is some of the content creators were noting. And considering, again, I've been at this since, oh my God, 2007, I think was my first preview for Eventide. Right. And I've seen Wizards be like, could you please call them previews? That'd be really great if you call them previews. I'm like, I know, but the audio, I can't sort of help myself but call them spoilers. And I don't think that degrades the act or degrades the product or even implies that there's something wrong. I'm still, we're still hashtag ad sponsored free preview from Wizards. We'll give them all the disclosures, but at the end of the day, I still get excited at both spoilers and previews for what it's worth.
Oh, for sure. But I think that this was more directed at content creators like us, who, when we say, hey, we have a spoiler for you, as opposed to, hey, we have an official preview, hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored, hash browns, etc. So moving on here, let's talk about one of our favorites is to bring up tweets from @Cube April King. And this one concerns deceptive advertisement of rewards on Magic the Gathering Arena. Now, if you look at the bar of what you win when you are in a league, either a competitive draft or a competitive constructed league, the imagery of the bar shows you 2 cards and 1 coin for 0 wins, then 2 coins for 1 win, followed by 3 coins, 4 coins, 5 coins, and then a big old stack of coins. The thing is, though, that does not match up with what you actually get. You instead get 50 gold for no wins, another 50 gold for 1 win, etc., right? So this is sort of...
They're showing you coins equal to some amount of prizes, but the last one has more coins than are represented by the prizes that previously showed it. So whereas previously you saw 4 coins was worth 50 gold each, now they have 7 coins there, 8 coins, and they're worth 33 gold each. So it looks like a lot, but it's not. And I get being in the world of marketing, I get it. I understand what you're doing, but if you want to do that, then you should start showing more coins, too many coins, before the final stack, because then you're going to not create that expectation.
And it was enough information to get a response from Lee Sharp, who is, of course, one of the big muckety-mucks up there in Magic the Gathering Arena. He's the digital project manager for Arena, who said, our artists generated some gold images that we assigned to prize bubbles. Goal isn't to communicate this is the exact relative amount, but rather more wins equals more gold. The exact gold amounts are visible in the hangers that appear as you mouse over a given win count. Hashtag WotC staff. To which April replied, I believe you when you say that it's not intentional. But that said, it's pretty unfortunate that multiple events have this problem, including one that just went up today, meaning March 1st, which I believe was the Cascade event. It gives the impression that going 5 and X or 7 and X gives a huge payout when it doesn't. Again, this is not a hill I'm willing to die on, but it is notable, and we can always be improving. So worth talking about. Moving on, let's talk about patrons. Hi, patrons. How you doing?
We love you.
Love you. Jinx, Yomi Coke. We here on Magic Mics, of course, have our very own Patreon, patreon.com/magicmics, where 194 of you, at most recent count, give us at least $1. $1 doesn't sound like much, but as Neo Meruru writes, all of the thread about Patreon dollars, the dollar patrons are the bread and butter, the rice and beans. They're the least likely to be hit by financial troubles and cause my income to fluctuate. And psychologically, people with more patrons attract more patrons. Never feel bad about only pledging $1.
Yeah.
Really big, good point here. Also linked to a thread from @terminally_nerdy. Who was talking about how important $1 patrons are to all us content creators. And they are, it is definitely a gravity situation where the more patrons you have, the more that you attract. And it's nice to see it put into words and put into a phraseology that makes sense to the masses.
Yeah, that's probably the number one question or the number one piece of feedback that I get when I travel to events is I love the show. I would love to contribute, but I can't afford to. And there are so many ways that you can support your favorite creators that don't involve money. You can like our posts, you can share them, you can upvote them, you can download, you can leave reviews, positive ones. You can retweet. I mean, there's so many things tied to metrics, and metrics lead to more visibility. So we appreciate every bit of support. We don't want people to feel like they ever have to contribute money to be part of the Magic Mike's experience. We see every like, we see every retweet, we see those comments. We do keep an eye on those things, and it really does make a difference. And so, we do want to stress that if you're even able to give $1, we love you for it. And if you're not, there are so many ways that you can still support us, and we thank you for that too.
And there's no hard feelings if you have to stop being a patron or whatever. Yeah. That's cool. I get it. It's fine. Obviously, we're incredibly lucky to be supported at the level that we are. And I certainly appreciate that every single week and every single month, as the bills don't go downward, as it were. But
more money, more problems.
But again, and if you want to give $5, you can hear me curse a lot. It's fine. It's what you want to do here. It's what we provide here. We got all sorts of juicy in this current pre-show for those patrons who happen to support us that level. But
tonight's pre-show was what? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Drugs, and rock and roll was tonight. So if y'all want to get in on that, it's real. Anyway,
so Chris is in the chat is like a lot of swearing.
Speaking of juicy, do we have the image ready to show the people exactly what we're doing? Because we're peace, love, and taco grease, ladies and gentlemen. We're taking you on a road rocking trip to Flavortown with this most recent meme from magicthegathering.com website channel Fireball. Display. Is this an official product?
I don't think so. I think it's just a silly mock-up. It's a silly mock-up, but it's hilarious. I got it on screen.
Mock-up for a
this is a shame. Like this
is a Value Town t-shirt is what they said.
This could have easily been the next, when Spike first came out and there was the Nope t-shirt, and then Wizards was like, we didn't think anybody would want this. I feel like this could easily go the same direction of this was a joke, but like people might actually buy this. Like
we should make this for our show, except for that instead of the Channel Fireball logo, we just have the Magic Mike's logo.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Magic Mike's bowling shirts. Would y'all wear those?
Bacon on your cheeseburger in real life though, is what I'm talking about.
Bringing that deck to Flavortown. That's what I'm talking about.
The gravitational force of the bacon warps the laws of space and time. That's what
we're doing. God.
No, here we go.
Wear that to F&M. There we go.
No, Zimlatrus, I like it, says it's the new pie bet. And whenever who loses will have to buy a shirt like that for one or the other, whoever lost, and then they have to wear it for the next set review.
Oh my God.
Has to? I'll just do this.
It's very easy to get Ruben to do things.
It's very easy to get Ruben to do things.
I am stricken by the chicken. That is all I care about.
Holy cow. Where did that come from?
We're doing diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Stricken by the chicken. I've never heard of that before.
That's a Guy Fieri original.
Clearly.
Come on. Anyway, speaking of clothes and games, flawless segue as we move away from Desperate Ravings and into Splash Damage, where Cranium Apparel, well, they sort of stepped in it a little bit with their newest product. Get ready, female gaming community. Oh, brother.
Oh God.
And then services hand, like info desk lady emoji. Esports dress now available. Dress emoji. How you doing, fellow kids? It's time that we do something for the female gamers who receive so much backlash in the community! ! Stay strong, ellipsis. We respect you, heart emoji. proudly supporting hashtag all caps women in esports. Tag every female gamer you know.
Oh my god.
Nail polish emoji.
Oh, the nail polish.
So if the tweet wasn't bad enough, the dress looks like a gaming chair.
At first I thought this was really cool. I thought this was going to be like a National Geographic thing where it was like, watch as the female gamer dodges harassment and bigotry by blending in with her environment. And I was like, I would absolutely do that. Like, that's really sweet. But then the more you read about it, it's like, they say a lot of the typical lines of like, our critics are haters. And did you ask any women what they thought of this? No. And it's just like, all right, I can't do that.
Let's also touch quickly on the one of the responses, which is from a streamer named Shadowfax. Were any females involved in the design/decision making of this? Cranium Apparel responds, unfortunately, no. But we are now turning to the community for ideas. This will help us make more informed decisions in the future.
Oh, I mean, look, we developed a few female shirts, female t-shirts and things at Star City Games, and I assure you, I was not in charge of that process. I let someone, who was a female lead that. I'm a giant white dude. The hell do I know?
Design the women's clothing probably makes a lot of sense, particularly in a male-dominated space.
Not to mention that it's just not practical. Like, when you're playing an esport, you're sitting in a computer chair. I don't care how nice of a chair it is, but no one's wearing a dress to do that. Like,
I'll be honest. If anybody has an esports romper, like a little onesie with the short shorts, I will definitely wear that.
Oh no, it's time to show them.
Wrestler.
It's time to show them the real reaction from for the male gaming community.
Oh, are we showing that?
Yes.
Oh goodness! Look,
jeepers. Okay.
You can. All right, we're in PG-13 territory. Okay, if you haven't seen a butt,
a little butt never hurt nobody.
A little butt.
We all have butts.
All right.
Everybody poops. All right. Look, the esports jock strap is now available. Banana emoji. Made for men by women.
Yes.
Holding plate emoji.
Yeah.
Proudly supported hashtag Me9sports.
Yeah.
Tag every male gamer
men in esports.
I know it is, but I keep seeing it that way.
Me9 sports. That's pretty good.
Oh my god.
Tag every male gamer you know. Eggplant emoji. The eggplant emoji.
It was so good. It was such a brilliant response and just highlighted, so many of the flaws from the previous one. And it was just gold. The idea of like the gamer
it's
tag.
A really good pairing.
We are ruining MTG Young Mage right now. We are ruining this poor guy. I'm sorry.
Look,
everybody's got a butt, man.
Yeah. Everybody's got eggplants. All right, so let's bring it back. All right, we've had some that was a bit much. Let's bring it back to Magic the Gathering.
Going from butts to boxes.
That's right, and specifically super expensive Magic the Gathering cards owned by super rich people who are also famous.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve Wozniak is one of the founders of Apple Computing, and he is also a nerd. So unsurprisingly, and by nerd, what I mean is not just computers, not just nerdy interests, but also has himself quite the collection of Magic the Gathering cards. Joe Orlando, who's a sports collectibles expert, was hanging out with Mr. Wozniak and found that he had is this a 9 or a 9.5 graded?
Jeez.
Black Lotus, Christopher Rush signed 1993 Alpha Lotus in a hard case, of course, and among other things, that is quite the collectible. Staying on the collectible train, one Mr. Stephen Menendian, one of your vintage cohorts, found himself holding on to and being quite surprised, it seems, holding a sealed beta starter deck box.
I have chills just hearing it. Like, oof.
Wow.
Yeah, owned by Steve Wozniak as well, and just hanging out in his garage. He also had a box. He had a beta box, an unlimited box, a Legends box, an Arabian Nights box, an Antiquities box, and a box from the Dark among his elders.
That is maxi.
which
Ooh.
is something else to say the least. Those are just sort of sitting in his garage. I've heard some stories, heard tales about stuff like this before. Every once in a while, I'll run into one of my friends and they're like, hey, you still play Magic? Would you mind looking through my shoebox of cards I used to play with? And I'll go, sure. And, about 10% of the time, it'll just be $10,000. Not really that much. It'll be a lot of money.
Dual land, demonic tutor, or whatever.
Right. I found there was a $250 card from Legends that I'd never heard of in one of my friend's boxes. I have a friend out here who theoretically, though I've never seen these, has a storage container that has in the storage locker are original playtest cards from Richard Garfield and Friends' playtests, which is a heck of a thing there as well. So pretty cool. Good on Steve, TRGR and all that, but it is cool to just see it.
It is cool to know that, in somebody's garage is some of the most valuable, incredibly, just getting to the point of almost museum-worthy objects of old Magic the Gathering product. That's absolutely amazing.
It also tickles me to no end that some of those people have no idea.
Yeah. Zero.
Just no clue.
I think it also says something about just how deep the game's reach is, that, they say that you never really ever quit Magic. You might, there was a post on Reddit recently where there was a person who was saying that they hold on to their friends' cards when they go through certain life events where they're like, I'm going to have a baby. I can't have these for now. You need to hold on to them. Or we're getting married. Hold on to my cards. And so if they're ever ready to come back to the game, those cards will be waiting there. And we just assume that everybody who's a Magic player is playing constantly. But I have people who follow me from my WoW days where I will share things from a previous season, and they're like, I remember that card Nightmare. Yeah, I haven't touched a set in years, but I remember what a Nightmare is. I remember what an ATOG is. And Magic was a lot of people's gateway drug, and the roots go pretty deep.
So moving on to another story here in Splash Damage is an article from Polygon written by Katie Chironis called "Making Games for a Living Means Being in Constant Fear of Losing Your Job." I've never been in the games creation industry myself, although there were some quotes in here that certainly struck a nerve with me. About the sort of the economy at large and the gig economy at large. As you all know, I'm a bit of a professional vagabond. I move from job to job and place to place, busking and doing what I can as a troubadour.
He walks the earth, he gets in adventures.
Right, exactly.
Got some child support,
Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully the cops never catch up to me, but you get my point. And so reading this article about the industry, which we've had several Splash Damages about companies like Telltale and Blizzard, among others, with massive layoffs over the years, where it's not the dream job that it seems. And the article ends by saying, dream jobs are a funny thing. You can make money doing what you love. That's pretty cool. But after multiple interstate or intercontinental moves for the sake of finding a new job, or rebooting your social life for the 5th time, or having to explain to your daughter why she's changing schools and leaving her friends, the cool parts lose their luster. And once the luster is gone, the dream job is just another job.
Yeah, we've talked about this before in the past, whether or not it's a good idea for these folks to unionize, if that's even possible. We've also talked about how, and maybe manipulation is the wrong word, but, how a lot of these companies take advantage of the fact that people want to work there. They know that you love the brand so much, that you love the game so much, that you might be willing to put up with less pay than you deserve, or you might be able to put up with certain inconveniences because you love the game so much. And that's, I don't agree with that. I think that is sort of taking advantage of people. And, it was interesting to me, the defense mechanisms that these folks have, where, she mentioned in the article that, there's regular, they make it a habit more so than usual to network, because you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so you're building this safety net. You're never really allowed to feel safe. I'm getting to the point now where I'm prepared to buy new furniture. I know I strongly believe that I'm not going anywhere with my current job. And so I'm able to make purchases like that. I'm able to plan trips, and I'm able to get furniture and things like that. But people who work in these industries, it can all just be pulled out from under you at any point. And so things that you and I kind of take for granted with our 9-to-5s, these folks don't necessarily get to do. And they should be able to. And it's a shame that they live in sort of this paranoid existence of like, you know, waiting for the hammer to drop.
Well, I have a fairly unique take on this one because I live in Orlando. I actually live very close to a place called Full Sail University. Now, Full Sail is a university that doesn't really give a damn what your grades are or what you've done or what your SAT looks like, because if you pay the fee, they'll let you in the door. And this is the college itself is very much billed as the video game college. This is where you learn to make modeling and animation and programming and so on and so forth. There is an EA office in Orlando, and they will chew up these kids and they will spit them right out. And they will give you, like, I think for what I heard was they will give you a 12-month contract, and then you can't work for them for 18 months. And it's like, what? And that's just kind of how they do. They'll get the new recruits in who are all ready to go, and they'll work a million hours because they're young and they don't care. They don't have any responsibilities or family, and they're just living at the office, and they just chew right through them until next year's.
Like pack beasts.
Yeah, because they, like, all these kids come with this idea that they're going to make the next Warcraft or whatever, and they ride on that dream and they use it against them essentially with a school that is barely accredited. I think it's accredited in like a weird fashion, but not totally, as in, you know, your Florida State universities or your Harvards or Yales or whatever. So like when I was at Star City Games and we were hiring, and people would come in with Full Sail, you know, university, you know, bachelor degrees or whatever, I'd just be like, yeah, I'm super skeptical now, because Full Sail University degrees can be largely bought and purchased because you can do everything remotely, and their standards are often not as high as others. And I'll be honest, a lot of the people who would apply from Full Sail for example, a director or a video editor position weren't that great. So like, that's just kind of a thing. There's a whole stigma about that, but that's a whole industry down here in Orlando, like a whole industry.
Well, the three of us also have unique perspective of the dream job scenario. We've all worked in the Magic the Gathering sphere, and we've also all worked regular jobs. We're all at different points in that journey right now. But it's interesting to look back on and look at the times in which, for example, when I was working at Star City Games or working at Tales of Adventure, and I was spending, you know, all of my working hours in Magic the Gathering. When I went home, I didn't want to do Magic the Gathering anymore because that's what I do at work. Whereas now it's a different relationship, very similar to poker for me in another way. When I'm doing, when I was playing poker full time as opposed to writing about it or doing what I'm doing now.
My experience was very unique in that I felt a lot of guilt when I realized that it wasn't for me. So I took the offer to work for Card Hoarder, and it was the dream, or what many people would consider to be the dream. You know, when you're a content creator, you know, it's a high point when you're able to quit your day job, your muggle job, and do whatever your hobby is for a living. And so to be in a point where I could just do magic was what a lot of people would consider to be the dream, and what I thought was the dream too. And it was cute for a couple of months. You know, I was traveling a lot. I was meeting a lot of people. You know, I was really diving into the community, but I actually missed my day job. Like, I really missed kind of corporate life. I missed the structure. I missed having a physical workplace that like I could go to. Working from home was surprisingly hard for me. Like, I had a really hard time staying motivated. I had a really hard time leaving bad feelings behind. You know, if you have a bad day at work, you can leave that. You can physically leave the space where that bad happened and go home. But if you have a bad day and you work from home, you just have to kind of marinate in it. And so I felt a lot of guilt when, you know, people would say to me, oh man, you know, you're working from home and you're in your sweats and you get to do all these cool things. And I was like, and I'm miserable. Because to a lot of people, that would be sort of the ideal to shoot for. And it was nothing against, you know, my employer or anything. It was all me. But, you know, here was this dream job and it just was not for me. And so I was actually really excited to be able to get back to a normal job where I wasn't eating, sleeping, and literally breathing magic. It was nice.
I highly recommend what we've managed to pull off here on Magic Mics, which is to be an entirely independent channel with sponsors that we are not beholden to. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
Very lucky.
We're very lucky that we actually like our sponsors. Let's put that out there. I use all of these services. You know, you're not going to see us peddling caffeine beef jerky or electronic toothbrushes or anything like that. We genuinely use and frequent the companies that we have, and we're so lucky that we get to do that. Like to make.
You gotten an email from that caffeine beef jerky company?
Because we totally could get back with those, and I like beef jerky. I don't know how much you guys like.
Everything.
I love beef jerky. All right.
Caffeine beef jerky. Real quick, just because I wanted to talk about it, and because we're broadcasting right now on a Thursday night, and we're interrupting my Critical Role watching time.
Oh boy!
I'm wearing my Critical Role hoodie. Critical Role is a Dungeons and Dragons live play show that literally broke Kickstarter yesterday. And the day before. In the last 3 days, Critical Role's fans have raised, I think the most recent count is $6.3 million of their hoped $750,000 goal of their 45-day campaign. We're 3 days in, and it is just going gangbusters. It's going insane. It has over 42,000 backers as of most recent count to animate a Dungeons and Dragons show, which has not been on television since the old D&D show from the 70s. And so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to that as someone who's recently gotten started in streamed Dungeons and Dragons. Critical Role is, of course, the champion on top of the hill. They're broadcasting right now with 55,000 live viewers on Twitch, which is ridiculous. But you know, they're the ones that got me into doing streamed role-playing games, and so I want to give them a quick shout out.
I appreciate Muddy Mundo going, lol, only Ruben cares. I'm loving this. And we're just like,
hey, if Evan is allowed to spout nonsense about his industry garbage, like I'm going to a board game convention, it's like I can talk about my ridiculousness.
Touché.
All right, let's choose a winner, shall we? Let's pick a winner for the raffle. The winner is the Maverick Girl. Look at you,
God.
Kendra.
Hashtag blame Kendra.
Yep.
You can buy like 2 oubliettes for that.
Double oubliettes.
You can buy a whole pauper deck with that. You do realize that.
Oh my goodness. Well, way to go. I think you may or may not know Miss Aaron.
Nope, never met her. Never.
To help you get your stuff.
Yeah,
so I've heard a lot about her. Candy, if you're watching, feel free. Candy, right? You can find me on Twitter. I don't think I have you blocked. Facebook. Yeah, we can.
Smoke signal.
Get it, Evan. Evan will help you.
All right, let's go ahead and turn the corner here to the finish. Let's do our giveaway and our thanks. We've already done the giveaway. A Little Aloof, subscribe for 11 months in a row. Thank you very much. Time to crank this podcast up to 11 months. Oof. Chris RD19 resubbed for 7 months. Thank you so much. Guess who just got his food delivered, he says.
We both had Grubhub issues tonight, so I'm glad he got his food.
Nice. Thundervoice _1 resub for 11 months. Almost a year of taters, they say. Awesome. Arcane Lore resub for 9 months in a row. Thank you very much. 9 months, and I need to work on the delivery, they say. Joe the Marrow resub for 2 months in a row. The highlight of my Wednesday/Thursday night. Glad to be around for the live version, as we are as well. Excellent. Thank you very much. Beyond Sadistic resub for 7 months. 7 whole months. That's longer than HD DVD was cool. And you're not wrong. Wow. Neto360 resub for 7 months. Beep boop. And let's see, do we have any other? We have Metalhead 503's resub for 3 months. Great show. Have been with you since the start and even before. Well, we certainly appreciate that so much.
4 years ago. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It looks like Kendra lost her pauper deck this weekend, so that winning the award here will certainly help.
We've actually joked about that. Speaking of our very first episode, we are approaching our 4-year point, and we have joked about whether or not we should go back and like watch the first episode and like comment it for you all. So if that's something you guys want to see, we're open to recording that.
That'd be pretty adorable.
That sounds funny.
So
you want to go over the bits?
Let me do the bits. If there are any messages along with the bits, let me know.
I will.
This past week on The Broken Pact, I did a pretty creepy voice for Svogthir, the Golgari Perrin, and it was recommended that I use that. And since it's a short list, I won't be destroying my lymph nodes too much for these.
Look at Celine Dion over here destroying my lymph nodes.
Metalhead 503, 4 bits. Martin Kesa, 131 bits. Eternal Tribal, 200 bits.
This is creepy.
I told you it was creepy.
The audio listeners are going to be freaked.
House of Shadow sneaking in with 69 bits. Nice. Sexy Toy 351 bits. And MTG Effect 500 bits.
That was 500. I think your audio blipped out a little bit there for a second.
But 500 bits.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt my voice that much. I know that people were concerned about that after Monday's show, but it's all right.
I'll have to break out the Helen voice for one of those someday. Just 500 beats.
Absolutely.
The evolution of the Patreon. Be great.
Very nice. Well, look, breaking news, the world's top bridge player has been banned for doping. Geir Helgemo was banned for a year by the Monaco Bridge Federation. Now, even though the med he tested positive for isn't performance enhancing in bridge, the Bridge Federation is recognized by the International Olympic Committee, and as a result, they abide by their rules. But it is interesting to consider the implications of drug testing in Magic. So if the IOC brings digital athletes like Magic the Gathering Arena pros on board, how deep do you foresee that rabbit hole going, Ruben?
Well, as you surely know, competitive esports is no stranger to, shall we say, medical self-therapy. You name it, I've seen it. Adderall, caffeine patches, nicotine patches, whatever. So for Magic, I definitely foresee drug issues being a problem because all a Magic the Gathering player or a drug addict wants is to chase the dragon.
Wow. Aaron?
Well, as you all know, I take a little drug called spironolactone, also known as Spiro. And while it's not currently considered performance enhancing in an esports sense, it is performance enhancing in other ways. And considering the fact that the first Mythic World Champion, the best Magic commentator working today, and at least a dozen of Magic's best grinders, podcasters, and streamers are all #transmafia, maybe the testing community should look into it.
It's quite the advantage you got going on there. Well, look, based on how I'm feeling right now, I've got cough syrup on my mind. Hey, look, there's a Dayquil right here. It's right next to me. And one of the trends in illicit substances is scissorp. I just said scissorp, y'all.
Nice.
Also known as, quote, purple drank, unquote, a mix of codeine-based prescription cough syrup and soda. The opiate sedative mix might not be seeing top-tier play at a Magic Fest just yet, but if Mox Opal combo decks make a return after the banning of Krark Clan Ironworks and turns start taking 20 years again, I might need me some of that nap juice too. Speaking of naps, that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thank you for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody in chat.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you, and get well soon, Evan. We'll be back to our regular schedule next week, and we'll all be in fighting shape.
I don't know. You two. I'm catching what you guys have just through the interwebs.
That's true. Well, you might get a virus from your computer. So.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
All right. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com and CardamandJakes.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening, and I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, Twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMicsPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMicsPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time. Well, okay. On Wednesday. Same time. Same place. For another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.